What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Doors to Deals episode. I'm your host, Caleb, and today we have with me Reggie Resper. I'm super excited to interview Reggie. I've always looked up to him. Reggie, in my eyes, has trained some of the top agents in our area, and he's really one of the smartest people I've ever met. So anytime I get to chat with Reggie, I always walk away definitely with my cup overflowing. So I was very, very excited for today's episode. Welcome, Reggie.
Well, thanks a lot. That's the introduction. I think we can just stop now because I don't know if I can live up to those words you said. So
I think you'll exceed it. So no, I've always enjoyed any time I get to chat with you. I remember at was it family reunion this year? We
yeah,
actually left family reunion, just went and got coffee for like 4 hours, and I was like, I came all the way to no, it was Mega Camp. I came all the way to
yeah,
Mega
man.
Camp to get coffee with somebody that I live 10 minutes away from.
I mean, we
But
really live closer than that. We both live in Glen Carbon, so
yeah, and I don't even know what part of Glen Carbon,
yeah,
but I know you're not far. And So I really like the story of like you starting out in real estate and like kind of some of those. I always like to help beginner people know about some of the struggles that we went through growing up or starting out. So what was it like when you started and what year was it? How long have you been in the business?
man, that's a loaded question. It's tough. I started in 2013, and I'll tell you, right before I got in real estate, there was a big thing going on. It's called the $1 million producer. I don't know if you remember that kind of advertising and stuff of that story, but $1 million producer. And I thought that these people were millionaires. I didn't realize that they just made $30,000 in commission. I'm like, I thought they were millionaires. So when I got into this business, I didn't have I didn't understand it, to be honest with you. So I got in and I was like, you know what? I'm going to out hustle everyone. I'm going to be successful and I'm going to be a millionaire in just a couple months. And, truth be told, that wasn't how it happened. The flip side, July 2013, I got into real estate and I was evicted from my house in August because I didn't have enough money. My runway ran short. But what I will tell you is, I wouldn't have it any other way, Caleb. There's two things to this. I wouldn't have it any other way for me to get started 'cause that's how I'm built. But for most people getting started, I wouldn't tell you to put your whole family on the surfboard in the middle of the ocean so that, you can learn lessons and be a successful agent in the future. Um, what I went through, living in my parents' basement, grown man, married, three kids, living in my parents' basement, for 7 months, 8 months. It taught me everything. I was the first one at the real estate office. I was the last one to leave. I learned from the people who weren't successful. I wanted to learn from people who were successful. So I was a sponge. And, it turned for me that December. And that, from that moment on, I became a pretty successful agent, but it was because of, running out of gas, having to get some of my friends come give me gas money, from calling my friends and say, hey, you know what, can you pay my cell phone bill this month? Hey, can you buy my lunch and I'll take care of you after my next closing. Those are all the things that no one I know now I didn't have to come in like that. But it's how I did, and it put my back to the wall. And I wouldn't have it any other way now because that's my story.
It's really interesting to hear about like the people who you start from the bottom and you raise up to the top, and they're all like, I wouldn't want this for you, but for me it was the way that I needed it because I needed my butt really kicked to get into drive. So July of 2013, it's 2023 now, so we're almost at 10 years in the business.
Yeah.
Congratulations on making it almost a decade. And when did what really started to kick in? Like when did you start to get a lot of deals going, and kind of what led to that?
Yeah, great question. Well, I'll give a shout out to an agent. So I was in the office and this agent. I was doing open houses, Caleb. I was doing open houses on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And I took my computer and my notebook. If nobody came, I was prospecting from the open house because I couldn't go home because I wasn't going. I couldn't go home not knowing I gave everything because I had three kids at home. So I'll start with that. I prospect every day, and I did open houses almost every day of the week for I'd say a month and a half. I realized that's a complete waste of time, and I can do something totally different. But this agent saw me. Her name is Kathy Shimwell, and I'm forever grateful for her. She said, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna give you this lead." And listen, I know it was a lead that that she probably didn't want to work, but I took it as, hey, you know what? She's giving me a gift. Let me go close it. So I got that lead in August, and I closed on October 28th, and that was my first real estate deal. And then I started doing open houses, smartly. I was doing them on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and I started picking up people. And then I had some breaks, but people gave me leads because they saw my work ethic. They knew that I wasn't going to let the lead go. So that December, we were able to. I had 7 closings and I want to say about $15,000 to $17,000, and I took a majority of that, and I paid a full month of rent at the next place that I moved to in O'Fallon, and so I paid that up completely. So once my family was off the surfboard, I didn't start coasting. Now I was saying, how am I going to pay the next year? How am I going to eventually buy a house? And this time I never bought a house until 2019. So it always kept me driving because there's one story that I'll share. There's one last story I'll share. So the night before we're gonna leave our house in O'Fallon, which my kids love. My kids love this house. My daughter comes to me and she says, "Hey, what's for dinner?" I was like, "I don't know, And we had no food really. And she went in the pantry. She found a Twinkie, and she says, "Hey, can I have this Twinkie for dinner?" And I look at my wife at the time, and I was like, "Yeah, sure." And Haley was so excited. I mean, she was like, "We got Twinkies for dinner!" And from that moment on, I said, "That is my all time low in my life." That I said, "Hey, going forward, no more Twinkies." And so one of the first things I say when I get up in the morning, hey, no more Twinkies today. Let's go. So that's part of my drive, and I knew that going from there, from that December, that it always had to be no more Twinkies, and it had to be let's start from there. So from that moment on, I never went out of closing a month. So
I love that so much. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. No more Twinkies. Sorry, I was taking a couple notes for you. That's a really, really powerful story for you to tell, I'm sure, and it means a lot deep down. I start every day with a race, so I'm kind of
mhm,
similar. I don't have a cool no more Twinkies story, but
yeah,
I'm a very competitive person. Those of you that know me know
mhm,
Caleb does not lose, right? So every day it's 1, 2, 3, go. How do I beat yesterday? How do I race? What Caleb used to do, and
mhm.
it keeps me going a lot. It gets my drive. So you're no more Twinkies. Mine's not as cool, but 1, 2, 3, go is Caleb's walking out the door thing that he says himself when I'm really kicking it in.
Yeah.
The other thing that kind of sparked with me there, man, Kathy Schimmel has trained a lot of people. There's a lot of
Mhm.
agents today that are really big that I didn't realize that. You might have told me in the past, and maybe I forgot that Kathy trained you. So
Yeah.
that's
Well, she didn't really train me. I mean, she
oh,
was.
she gave
I
you
would say
a
she's a but she was a mentor. I mean, like I would go to her because you got to think at that time. I mean, Kathy was the internet leads champion. I mean, she had more internet leads than anyone. If I had to guess, I'd say she's probably spending back in those days, 15, 20 grand a month on internet leads.
wow in
So
2013, 15, 20 grand was
I
a
mean,
lot to spend on
yeah, I mean,
leads.
she knew internet leads, and she's one of the hardest working people I've ever met. So
Good for her. Yeah, I haven't actually met her. I've known her kind of through the grapevine, but I'm gonna need to chat with her
yeah,
sometime to hear her stories about back then. All right, so moving forward, so we're no more Twinkies. How do we get to buying our first investment deal, or what's next? The brokerage is next, right? You started your own brokerage, right?
yeah. So 2015, I started my own brokerage, and man, was there a lot of mistakes in there. I mean, there's just so much I didn't know. Rick and Tammy, the people who owned the brokerage I was at, always knew that I wanted to open my own brokerage, and I mean, one of the biggest mistakes I made was I thought that when I got licensed, I could open. It was 2 years from the day I got licensed. It was actually the day you receive your license. So I essentially left the brokerage, and I get a call from Tammy. He's like, "Well, you can't be a managing broker for another 3 weeks." And like, man, what egg on your face? Like, I'm in my office. We've almost signed my license, and she's like, you know what? I'm going to help you out. I'm going to allow you to stay in our brokerage. You finish out so you can become, but until you can get your managing broker license. And that's what she could have signed my license. I could have been screwed for a couple of weeks, but she helped me out, and all these lessons, small lessons I learned through the time. So I started my own brokerage, and this time, I still never bought a house. This is when we're probably selling somewhere between 70 and 80 homes a year, and still never bought a house. And it wasn't until 2019 I bought my first house in Edwardsville, and then you and me. So you may tell you the story about the deal that fell in my lap.
Yeah, let's hear that. I love good deals that fall in
Okay.
laps because
Okay. So this is a
hard
good one.
work creates good deals. It doesn't create luck. It just creates deals.
That's right. So one of my good friends, Tristan Rising, who you had on the podcast recently, he was just becoming an investor. I mean, now the guy owns like 45 doors in just a few years. But the kind of, so Tristan's like, hey, you know what? There's this deal you may want to look at, but I don't want to touch it. I'm like, okay, let me look at it. And that was like a challenge to me. I was like, he don't want to touch it. Like, if people zig, I zag. I want to go the other way. So he brought it to me. The apartment building it was condemned, and the city of Belleville wanted to tear it down. And it was being sold for $32,000. It's a 4-unit building, and went in. I mean, it needed foundation work. It needed a full gut job. So long story short, I bought the building. We put about $125,000 into the building. Just say we're all in 150, 155. Today, the building cash flow is about $1,800 a month, and it appraised at 300 grand, 295 to be exact. So that was a deal that I don't know if I don't. I think I was lucky, to get it. It was something that I didn't know a lot about. I've helped at this point. I helped a lot of investors buy homes and stuff of that sort. But that's where my expertise stopped at. But now I understand financing. I understand 520s. That's 5-year loans amortized over 20 years. I understand hard money lending. So I understand all these other financial avenues now. But at the time, it fell in my lap. It worked. The bank trusted me on it, and it's it's one of my best deals to date. So
I think it's really amazing. So there's this interesting thing with agents and as they go up the ladder, so it takes so long for them to become investors, and then you can see that the income, what'd you say you cash flow on that? Sorry,
1,800 a month.
1,800 a month, and you bought it 3 years ago, and it's doubled in value.
Yeah,
So you've made 50
yeah,
grand a year in value and net worth, which that is
hmm
income for those of you guys that are listening. That's income.
yeah,
When he sells it, he doesn't, and then you pay less taxes on it too, and you're making 1,800 a month on it. Like,
yeah.
holy cow, that's $20,000
And
a year.
something else I'll add to that. If I was able to go back to myself, 9 or 10 years ago, and say, Reggie, here's what's going to happen over the next 10 years. Here's what you should do. The advice I would give myself is this: I would say, hey, do as well as you can in real estate, be successful as possible, but you got to take the money somewhere, and you got to start investing earlier. I really wish that, I started investing 2015, 2016, because I may be at 100 doors now. Um, so that's my biggest thing, because everybody thinks that, hey, you're gonna become a real estate agent, you're gonna be really wealthy and stuff of this sort. And this is my belief. I don't believe you can become wealthy as a real estate agent only. I believe you can be rich. And the difference is, to be wealthy, you have to get your passive income to exceed your working income. So how do you do that? You have to invest your money. And so you could invest in the stock market, you can invest in real estate. I prefer real estate because that's the business that I'm in. But I think that agents as a whole needs to understand that if you make $200,000 a year, $400,000 a year, $600,000 a year, what are you going to do to help that grow next year? Because it can't just be make more money.
Yeah, and it's so I was asking Rebecca Rose, who I know you
Oh, I
really love
love her.
Rebecca. I've so much love in my heart for Rebecca. She's a brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant person. And I was asking her, Rebecca, what percentage of real estate agents own investment real estate? And she said 7 or 8%. And my jaw just dropped. I'm like, why is it so low? Like, these people are helping investors buy the houses. They have the knowledge. Why don't they do it? And the kind of where I came up with, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, it's because the brokerages can't monetize rental properties, and they can't monetize flips the way that they can the transactions, the deals. So the brokerages aren't talking about investing at as high of a level as they are about trying to get deals done.
You know, I don't disagree with you, but I have a different perspective on it. So I think that the owners, the people at the top, don't not do it themselves.
Hey there, if you're looking to get the ultimate edge for your real estate investing company, go to doorstodeals.com/invest for more information. Just so you know, a high percentage of the people that we interview on this podcast are actually already Three Doors Network members. And our network members have a lot of extra resources. They have access to an online training vault with over 3 years worth of content in it. They have access to vendor savings like our Home Depot discount that's literally saved thousands of dollars for members. And we have a weekly group coaching call, and we have a lot of other great things as well as part of the Three Doors Network. So make sure that you check it out on doorstodeals.com/invest.
I don't disagree with you, but I have a different perspective on it. So I think that the owners, the people at the top, don't not do it themselves. I mean, you start thinking about it, we're not going to call anybody out because it's just it's you and I both know this. It's actually hard to do what you and I do. It's hard to be a successful real estate agent and successful investor because they both take a lot of time. So I think that brokerages, a lot of broker, I won't say because I know you guys, that's one of your specialty at Three Doors is helping on the investment side. But you go to some of the commercial brokerages, I don't think the owners and the leaders of the organization have big investors to because let me play devil's advocate with you. If brokerages did talk about that, yeah, they can't monetize the flips and stuff of that sort. But guess what? Those have to be sold still. They could be rented through the property management. Think about if a brokerage said, "Hey, you know what? We're going to take on the investor role. We're going to teach everybody how to do it, and we want you to house your property management companies within our brokerage." Man, you just added a whole nother piece of revenue to that. Hey, if you when you do a flip, hey, we're going to give you a certain deal on this. Guess what? They're getting more signs out in the yard to when the houses go for sale. So that helps the brand
Yeah, that does
equity
help.
of the brokerages, and then they're also getting the money because the agent has to pay to be there. So I don't know. I think that from the top down, I don't think it's a area that a lot of owners and leaders of organizations focus on within the industry.
It's also thinking a little bit more. The skill sets can be different, and some people are better at one, and some
Hmm.
people are better at the other. Whereas you and I both fit somewhere in the middle that we're good at both.
Yeah.
And I believe anyone can be if they're trained enough. So I love that. Let's reiterate back to you bought a deal. So you guys are Tristan. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago we had him on the podcast. Tristan's a rock
Yeah.
star. Tristan passed the deal
Yes.
to Reggie because he didn't want it, and it's Reggie's best deal he ever bought. That
The
like
funny story is Tristan found my first two or three deals for me. I wasn't he. I mean, he was. I trained Tristan from a very when he came to me, he was a roughneck in the oil field, and he was. I mean, he was rough, man. I took him shopping. I showed him where to get his haircut. He wouldn't mind me saying all this. We were really good friends, but you know, I think he saw a little bit of to give back to me. Hey, you know what, Reggie? Because I actually taught Tristan how to be an investor, but he surpassed me by the knowledge that I gave him. If that makes sense, and I think that he saw a way to hey, you know what? I'm going to keep bringing these deals to Reggie. He's eventually going to bite on one. So I bid on the first three that he gave me, and we even got in an argument over one. We played paper rock scissors, so he got to buy it, and I won because I don't
I love
lose.
that. I actually took a piece of advice from you, and that's how I met Tristan. Is you told me to start like having more conversations with co-op brokers and like just getting to know
Yeah.
people because when it came to other realtors, I wasn't always the most social. Like I actually, for those of you guys that know, I'm an introvert. I don't like big social settings; they make me uncomfortable. Even though I'm a real estate agent, and Tristan, we had a deal going, and we were getting off the phone. I was like, "Hey, Tristan, how's your business going? How's everything going?" And just ask that question. We got into a 30-minute long conversation about this was before you told me he was an investor or that you trained him.
Yeah.
And we got into this whole long conversation. I was like, dude, let's start networking a little bit together. Like we can help each other out. And it was
Hmm.
so thank you for that advice because that's something I've added into now that it's more than just doing a deal with people. There's relationships to be built.
Yeah. And some I'll tell you, you and I are both very busy people, but anytime I get a chance to talk to you, I want to do the same. So I got a list of questions for you. Can I ask them now? Is
Yeah,
now a good
let's
time?
ask away.
Okay.
Switch the interview
So
around.
Well, I mean, listen, I mean, I remember that time. You remember that time you came to our office here in Edwardsville, and I was like, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And before you know, like we're in 30-minute conversation. You're giving me spreadsheets and say, "Hey, look at this, look at that." So I started thinking about this our time together. I'm seeing a big switch in the real estate market right now. And everybody's seeing it. Interest rates are high, and I don't want to hear about they're historically low because in my time they're not historically low. They're still pretty high. So let's just call it that. How is that affecting? If I can get a loan from my bank, let's say I get a 520 loan from my bank and I get it at 7%. Like, how is that like affecting like hard money? Like, what are we seeing on that end from the investors who don't use banks?
Yeah, so hard money. So we actually haven't changed our rates, which is crazy and really
Okay.
great. So we're still at 12 and 13, depending on the loan product.
Yeah.
Our doors are getting banged down right now still, and we thought we'd slow down with like the slowdown in the market, but it's really picked hard money up because now my 12% or 13% loan is way more competitive against a 7%, and you don't need any money into my deal. So I would say it's made hard money. I'm starting to see more hard money companies market like
Yeah.
in the post for sure. There's more competition popping up because uh, the interest rates they're a lot closer. When it was 4%, hard money was like, why would you use that? But now you're at 7.5 on some
Yeah.
investment deals. And the one what really affected investors a lot is the um, I can't think of the name of it. Dominion does them. It's a loan program that Dominion does that you don't need to verify
Hmm.
income and you don't need to verify. It's just an asset-based loan, but it's not quite hard money. They were around
Okay.
originally around 6%, and now they're at 10. And those have pushed a lot of people to hard money because those have higher origination than us. So our rates haven't changed when every other rate has went up. So we're seeing a lot more business influx to us.
So, do you think that we'll see? Because I mean, obviously the market's changing now from the real estate perspective. If I take the real estate perspective, you take the investor perspective. What's going to happen? In your prediction, next few months when our investors are we going to see a lot more investors come? We're going to see because I believe we're going to see a lot of agents exit the market and retail sales. But in your opinion, what do you think is going to happen with the investor market?
So it's interesting. A lot of the new investors are scared and are backing out, and you have a lot of your seasoned guys that are. If you follow, like I'm a big data and analytics guy. To me, I don't see a crash coming. I see rates softening through the year. We're intending to buy more. Our goal is to buy as many properties as we can this year because of the way that supply is, and I can show you. But off this, which we're going to do a podcast about this soon. Some different charts that Barry B put together that show like the amount of families formations is the big like family formations happens around 33 years old based on new construction builds has been
Okay.
disproportionate for the last 10 years. And the reason that back to the 70s, there was a big drop in birth rate. And I'm not going to get into why because I don't want to get into politics on air, but there's a big drop rate in birth rate. And then 33 years after that was 2006, which is what caused the lack of formations and what caused the
Hmm.
amount of extra inventory. But we've had a higher formations and completions of new homes for the last 10 years. And I believe that supply is still going to be a huge issue. It's going to push prices up even higher in 2024 and 2025. We're going to see rates, though, this year slowly soften, but stay high. And as soon as rates come back down, we're in the same mess. So I think what's happening right now, sorry, this is a long answer. What's happening right
Yeah.
now
No,
is
this is great information.
a lot of new investors are scared because they're watching TikTok and they're watching news and they're seeing that the real estate market's going to crash. But you have a lot of seasoned investors that are just pumping out offers. We have more buys in January than we had in July, more buys in
Yeah.
January than we had last May. And that's the same for some of our big competitors, the big buyers in town. But the small guys who are newer are kind of scared and they're like, oh, I don't know. Once people realize through March, I think we should see I think it's maybe March 20th, the Fed gets back together to look over inflation and rates again. If we see rates drop in March and April, we're going to see every single investor come back into the market. And I think we're going to have some prices get pushed back up through the summer. And then possibly in the
Mhm.
fall, rates should drop even more, potentially. And we're going to see prices rise, which is going to flood the market full of investors. But a lot of agents are leaving the business right now. That's
Yeah.
a very
Wow.
long-winded answer.
No,
And I'm doing a whole podcast about this in a few weeks. But about like where we think prices are going to go. But I think the market's going to stay strong. Investors they're kind of, what's nice about being an investor is you can pull out of the market when you want to, and you can jump back in. Being an agent, it's hard to do that because of dues and the fees and costs to be an agent.
Okay, I got one more question for you.
Yep.
I'm just kind of using my time while I got it. Okay,
Dude, we got plenty of time here. Ask away.
So you've been an investor for a long time, right?
Yeah, about 10 years.
10 years. So when I first became an investor, I built relationships with 3 or 4 banks. Really, really 2 of those are my top uh, people that I use. You know, I'm seeing a difference with banks right now. Are you hearing or seeing banks starting to get? I won't say they're getting scared like 2007 and 8, but are you seeing them, clamp down a little bit?
Yeah, so the big thing that's happening that you and I are feeling more than probably a newer person is the max loan that banks will give you. So a lot of banks used to be at 2.5, 3 million. A lot of them have cranked that down to 1 million max per person or 1.5. And that's tough when you're talking about $1 million in loans. That that might be 5 houses, 6 houses.
It sounds like a lot, but it's not.
It sounds like a lot, but really, when you're talking about people have 45 doors. If a bank caps you at $1 million, you have to have 8 banks, 9 banks, and every bank has a different program. They have different rules, different restrictions. I haven't seen as much as where they're getting stricter on DTIs and years of experience and stuff, but the max loan amount, I've been with FCB, or I was with FCB for the last 5 years. I've sent them everything, all my bank accounts, everything. FCB called me 9 months ago and said, "Hey, we can't give you any more loans." I'm like, what do you mean? Like I've never made a late payment. Everything's on auto pay. You see my bank accounts and they're like, "Sorry, you're at our max amount of loans we'll do."
Really?
I gotta go knock on other bank doors. And I had never I didn't know that was a dollar. I didn't know there was a dollar amount. And then I started talking and asking around to more banks, and people are like, "Yeah, we used to be 2.5, now we're at $1 million." That's where they're trying to tighten up, from what I understand. I could be wrong, but that's what I've heard. So
wow.
Yeah, the initial 5-6 loans going to be still easy, decent to get, but once you get past that $1 million threshold or whatever the comfort of that bank is, it gets tougher. And then the other thing is, so like First Mid and some of them have came down to 65% of the appraised value and 70% compared to people who used to be at 75 and 80% of appraised value. So you're having to have a lot more equity into deals because the banks are really trying to protect their positions. The banks are very conservative. They're in the business of you making payments, not repoing houses.
Right. They don't want to own it.
Yep. Whatever, I want to own it. So yeah, I think the banks are going to stay conservative for a lot longer than the market's going to pick up, and it's going to be tough to continually scale. You're just going to need to have a lot of bank connections and a big network of bankers, which is why it's really good to have friends like you and me and people you can reach out to and ask for. Because I'll always share my bankers' info because I don't look at it as a scarcity thing. Mackenzie, who I'm working with now, when I send her people, she's like, "Thank you so much, Caleb." I'm like, "Hey, that's going to help me my next loan get a little lower on my interest rate."
I mean, just ask them, where'd you get Mackenzie from? How'd you find her?
So you pointed me in the direction of her, I believe. I'm pretty sure you pointed me in the direction of Mackenzie.
I did,
and I think I've done 5 loans with Mackenzie in the last month. She's amazing.
Yeah, she likes the details, man. She'll get the deal done for you. So
she's quick, dude. She 30
is.
days. Like in retail, we do deals in 30 days all the time. Investment world, 45 to 60 normally, but Mackenzie's she's a 30-day closer.
Yeah, I love that you always share. I'm the same way. I share everything. There's no secrets.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that when I look at real estate, there's like a beginner level, intermediate, and like the advanced level, I would say. And I don't want to sound cocky saying this, but like me and you are in the advanced level, and that level people are open books. They want each other to grow. They don't have scarcity mindset. You have a lot of these intermediate level people that are like, "Nope, I won't give my secrets out. This is my secret sauce. I won't share it." And I had that too for a little bit. And then you learn that I'll never make it to the top if I don't share what I have with other people, because they're going to share things like Mackenzie. So
I think what the agents miss in the 2 levels that you mentioned is the first 2 levels is if I'm going to tell you something, I actually I'm learning again. If I'm going to teach you, I'm going to learn it again. And, have you ever been teaching somebody something and you say, you tell them to do X, Y, and Z, and you're like, man, I'm telling, but I'm not doing that. And it makes me go back and say, I need to do X now because you've gotten far away from that. So, I mean, I think when you teach, everybody gets better around you. So
if you and you get so much better yourself if you can teach.
yeah,
Like this is I was talking to a couple agents on my team a couple weeks ago, and I was like, if you can teach any classes this year, do it. Get up there, and they're like, well, I'm scared to talk in front of people. It doesn't matter. It'll make you better. Like if you fail epically, it'll make you better. I did that the Gary mastermind that you suggested, Ginger, and I learned so much from that mastermind because I knew I had to present on it, and I went back through my notes and had to teach on it later. It's the best way to learn is to teach.
Yeah, I love it.
Cool. Well, we're running close to time. One question we always like to ask people, if you were to look forward in 5 years, where would Reggie be in 5 years, and what's your business look like?
5 years. I just did some end of year planning. 5 years, if I'm being totally transparent, is I'm going to have a better control on my expenses. When you run fast and, 3 or 4 businesses, when you run that fast, you just spend the money and you don't know. And I realized into this year, I may have made a great sum of money, but if you don't know where it goes, you didn't really make it. And so that's what I'm really focusing on is expense control, and then and grow my investment portfolio. I'd like to, I tell people all the time, hey, you know what, you got your passive income needs to exceed your working income, and that's how you're on the way to being wealthy. And so next 5 years, I'm saying it on air right now that my passive income will exceed my working income. I'd like to own next 5 years 100 doors, and I have a couple other businesses that I want to invest in. So that's where I'm going.
I love that, and you're probably still not going to quit working. If I know Reggie, you're still going to be you're still going to be selling houses, being a great agent, and moving. I love to hear that. There's a really beautiful feeling about being passive, and it's not to the point of like wanting to be lazy and not work. It's that I want to know that my family's fed, that I want to know that my little cat and dog down here are going to get to eat all the food they want, not have to eat Twinkies. Yeah. For me, it's a really, really important thing. I'm glad that you realize that. Any other agents out there, people that want to learn about possibly become financially free, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can message us on Facebook, send us an email, or call me at 618-401-8198. Always open to take calls. We'd love to help somebody else on that path to financial freedom too. Thanks, Reggie. I appreciate you jumping on with us today.
I'll see you, buddy. Thanks.
See you, buddy.
That's a wrap, guys. For additional resources, go to doorstodeals.com. And don't forget, we're already generating over $186,000 per month in passive income for people in our world. And we're just getting started, and we can help you out as well. So if you want to grow your passive income, we have multiple options available. The first step is for us to get to know each other better. Give us a call or send us over a text message at 314-310-4886 to get started. And finally, go out, live your purpose, and above all else, go after your dreams. Till next time. Thanks for tuning into this show. For more episodes and resources that will unlock doors to deals, check out our website, doorstodeals.com.